You believe in the devil, Father. I'm Daredevil. You believe in the devil, Father. I don't get to choose who I am. My delusion was thinking God had anything to do with it. I'm Daredevil. 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 Not even God can stop that now.
Welcome one and all back to the colour-coded recycling bin section of Hell's Kitchen. We are the Daredevil cast. My name's Nick Stanleyforth and I'm joined by the legend that is...
Eammon Jacobs. How are you doing?
I'm great, mate. I'm alright. I'm going to ignore and refrain from being the bitter bastard that I am after watching 8 episodes of this series. That is the sort of PowerPoint presentation that is the Defenders, where the leader of the group really is Matt Murdock, but then Danny Rand turns up at the last minute and gets all the credit, even though he did none of the work. We've got to do this bit because Matt Murdock's in it, and Eammon said I've got to, so this is what we're doing. Defenders, Netflix's Avengers, Next Vengers, Luke Cage, Danny Rand, aka the Immortal Iron Fist, who died a death, and Jessica Jones, and our boy Daredevil. Eammon. Mm-hmm. Straight to the point, mate. What did you think of this, having rewatched it? Also, what number rewatch is this?
This is my second watch in total ever. I have not watched this since it came out. My top level thoughts are, good lord, it's a bag of shit. To put it bluntly, it's a mess. It's like it's imitating the other shows that came before this to lead up to the crossover. It's like it's trying to be a Daredevil show. It's trying to be an Iron Fist show. It's trying to be Jessica Jones. And I did not enjoy this rewatch.
So, for listeners who remember me going mental last week, that I was very annoyed that we were going to have to watch this, right?
Yeah.
You know what, mate? I personally, I'm not going to say I loved it because I didn't, and I'm not going to say I enjoyed it because I didn't. What I do feel is I was a lot harder on it than I was a lot harder on it than it deserved, right? I think it's subpar, which is not good by any stretch, but it's nowhere as dog shit as I thought it was. There's some moments in this where I'm just like, why have you done this? Why is that happening? As Eammon said, the amount of times now, in between podcasts, where I send Eammon an aggressive voice note and he goes, save it for the pod. Because from the get-go, there's like, why the fuck is that happening? Why is she here? What's he doing? Why is this prick doing this? But then gradually I was just like, you know what, Nick, you've got to not necessarily enjoy the ride, but tolerate it.
Yeah.
And I think that is the common sort of emotion this common sort of mindset I got from going through this, where I was like, you've just got to tolerate this because season 3 of Daredevil's coming after this. And that's all that matters. That is all that matters. It's an 8-episode interval of a show that I really fucking can't wait to watch more of. And I don't know if I said this to you in a text or a voice note, but our boy Matt feels like how John Bernthal felt in season 2 of Daredevil, where every time he turns up, I'm like, yeah! And then Iron Fist turns up and I'm like, nah! So yeah, would you concur? Do you concur?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. There's elements of Matt's storyline in this that I'm not a fan of.
Okay.
There's moments of tension where I'm just a bit like, I could do without it.
Right.
I understand why it's there, but I'm just like, meh.
Right.
In service of this show in its own right, rather than like being Daredevil 2.5, I mean.
Yeah.
So like there's bits with Foggy and Karen towards the start of the season that just sort of bog it down quite a lot. Well, not a lot. That's maybe a little bit overzealous. Just it bogs those episodes down a bit when he's like down in the dumps and trying to figure out their relationship post Daredevil reveal and all that. And I'm like, this isn't the point of this show. Like, save that for Daredevil season 3. equally, I understand that they want to, they'll have been given an 8-episode mandate, so they want to fill that time. So they want to at least throw in some character development. So it's not like I dislike it, but I'm just like, there's an overarching mystery here that we need to get to, and you're sort of going through the motions of here's where everybody is, even though it's like, all right, theoretically speaking, you should have watched Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage already, so you know where everybody is pretty much. And I think, that just kind of, that rubs me up the wrong way ever so slightly on the rewatch. I was just like, come on, let's get... Or maybe it was just my own, like, I just want to get through this.
So my thing that I sort of kept having to say to myself is this suffers from potentially what the odd MCU film suffers from, which is these moments and this context and these characters and these conversations and these winks and these nods are all a lot more enjoyable had I watched Daredevil, Luke, like we've done specifically the Daredevil rewatch. We've not done a rewatch of Jessica Jones. We've not done a rewatch of Luke Cage. We've not done a rewatch of Iron Fist because no one would. But like outside of all that, like those are that's the thing where I probably why I was like I'm probably going in a bit too hard on this. I'll take it for what it was and what it is. And like you say, it's absolutely like a mandate situation of like, we're on the clock. Like, we've got to get through these because we've got these different shows still to do. Everyone's clearly waiting for this. It's just the structure around it and how it's executed and just filler. Not, and I know what I agree with what you're saying about, Foggy and Karen appearances and like Carrie-Anne Moss turning up. Mm-hmm. Is that right? She just turned up in something, and obviously like Claire turns up, and like those things are necessary, but it's like, for me, my biggest frustration is the Defender's story itself. Those things are tolerable because you go, oh, that's like fan service, and 9 times out of 10, if you know your fucking audience, you can't go wrong with fan service. The problem is the story that's built within all that, and you are just like, what's happening? Why are we going through this?
For any listeners that haven't previously watched The Defenders, or you just want a little refresh, The Defenders is the crossover series for all the Netflix Marvel shows, and it mainly culminates the storyline set up in Daredevil and Iron Fist specifically, where the Hand are
big bads.
They're big bads, and they're expanding their criminal empire through New York for mysterious reasons that become more apparent in the Defenders, and it sort of forces Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones to team up and take them down. It also reintroduces Elektra after she's been resurrected by the Hand, again, mysterious reasons, and it all sort of leads to a big showdown in Midland Circle, which is where that giant hole was towards the end of Daredevil Season 2, where there are things lurking underground that the Hand want to basically mine and extend their lifespan. But yeah, I kind of wish like that they'd kept it away from the Hand and away from anything mystical.
Right.
And I understand
why.
And I understand because I think it raises too many questions that I think just sort of not go nowhere, but it's like Elektra being this weapon called the Black Sky, for example. That's set up in the first season of Daredevil, alright? They want this Black Sky, they call it a weapon. You don't really know why, don't know what it does, but then it's this little boy that they see in a crate, and you're like, alright, cool, that's creepy, whatever. Fast forward to Defenders, and Elektra is this weapon, and all that it is that she's super strong.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
That's your lot.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, you spent however many episodes leading up to that as your, the black sky, this is creepy. Like, to me, when they kept referring to it as a weapon, I was like, oh, so this is something that is going to drastically change the state of New York or whatever. And it's just like, she is just super strong and
she's dead hard.
Fucks everybody up a bit. I was like, is that it, really? And I don't know if it's one of those, like a sort of J.J. Abrams type thing where they set up a mystery and then they're like, shit, now we have to provide an answer. And it just felt really underwhelming. And I think the whole series kind of feels a little bit like that. Even towards, what's at the bottom of the giant hole. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I guess.
Do you want to just rip into the fucking heaven and hell section?
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel like you're going to be a lot harsher on it than I am.
Yeah.
It got to the point, mate, where like I was just like, whatever. Yeah, cool. All right then. And I think it is. I'm so like numb now to, basically the reason as well. We want to add. We apologise for this podcast. This episode turned up late, but it was because we went to a screening of Captain America: Brave New World this week, and I think honestly, mate, one has fed the other. Where I'm just like, I've seen so much medium MCU stuff in the past couple of weeks. I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
But if it's all right, I'd like to go with my heaven section first.
Go for it.
If that's all right. So my 3 biggest takeaways from this are, firstly, the Defenders themselves. As much as we can bitch and moan about them, and as much as we can slag off Finn Jones as the Iron Fist, which personally I feel like he had the possibility to be the right guy in the wrong show, because the show was just not great as a whole. That's just my opinion, right? As a result of that, like, that will lead into my health section eventually. But like, him and this group, these 4 that are, we keep talking about pitch perfect casting picks, right? Him aside, watching those 3 work together, Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, Mike Colter as Luke Cage, and obviously Charlie Cox as Daredevil, is perfect. And it's exactly what I've always had in my head from what I've read. Like, little moments of, like, I can't remember what reason it is, where they're going, it's jumping out of the show a bit, but like, go in the final episodes, I think, when they're going down the lift, if it's any help, I'm glad I'm with you two. And then Luke Cage is like, we're going to hook. Like, and it's very non-Luke Cage. However, those are the moments where I'm just like, that's what you want in an ensemble, in a team-up movie, because it's ingrained in us since the Avengers. We want to see these characters interact. Yeah. So them hiding out in a fucking Chinese restaurant for what feels like 2 episodes, whilst treading water, does have moments where you're like, these guys are so good together. And I love that they're all like, it will always be one of the best lines in any fucking MC show of,
if you grab me like that again, I'll punch you so hard you see.
So good. And just her reactions, like, there's a bit where, and again, it goes back to my issue of like, Daredevil needs to crouch more, but if he's walking across the street with these 2, it's fine. But like, they turn up outside the building at the end, and he just walks into the shop, and she looks at him, she's like, oh, fucking hell, yeah, it's that again. Like, he's still...
I swear there's a line where she's like, I preferred the scarf, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. She's amazing. She's out, she feels more like our eyes than anyone else in the show, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, because she's the most grounded, but also the most, like, varied in powers and stuff, which I always think is quite funny and interesting. But yeah, those just this team, any ensemble, just they are a great team up, and that works. My other thing that I like is, I don't know, at this point, because he's sort of, he's Matt's revealed to Karen who he is and what's going on and stuff, and yeah, their side story in this is a bit wanky, but I feel like Matt's loosened up a bit.
Yeah.
When he's just with certain characters, he's just a bit like, he's a bit more like the Matt I think of when I read comics, where he's like, he has, the brilliant moment where Jessica spots him like doing like fucking acrobatics with the wall, and then they're in the building later, and she's like, I've got photos, and he literally just grabs the camera and just throws it on the floor. It's like, and I'm like, he has little giggles to himself and little laughs at the whole scenario, and it's like, I just like that Matt's loosened up.
It kind of feels a little bit like the earlier side of Daredevil season 1, where he's like still really good mates with Foggy. He's like getting to know Karen really well. You know, he's got a mission in sort of setting up their law firm and like trying to get Kingpin, but he still has moments of like he's not unhappy, is what I'm trying to say.
But it's also it's funny that you brought that up, like about how he's like nicer and he's making relationships, and I think it's probably because he's having to form new relationships with new people.
Yeah,
and they are like, you know,
I guess as well he's you know, post end of season 2, he's not quite got the same weight of like hiding the identity, because he's like, oh, I've not been out and about,
I've packed it in,
I'm not doing it. So he's not got that weight on his shoulders.
No, fair. Yeah, but yeah, that's one part. And I think my final sort of heaven bit, I think it's almost like a participation badge, basically. You can't knock them for trying. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not terrible.
No, maybe I was being a bit harsh to start with, but it's not like god awful.
There's more potential. And this is what I'm talking about when we said like we went to see Brave New World. Like, it's just good. For me, it's just good.
Fair enough.
And that's really all it needed to do. And realistically, when you look at where those shows have gone and where Daredevil is now going to be, it's like, well, it wasn't going to be anything anyway. But if they had potentially a plan to reunite them once again on Netflix, like, it doesn't matter because it was never going to happen. And I suppose, you know, hindsight's a hell of a thing, whatever. But at the same time, going into like the hell section of it, as much as I say like, well done for trying, mate, fucking scene transitions between characters. Basically, through this series, anytime you know what character you're going to meet next because the screen turns purple or it turns yellow or it's like ever so slightly like beige because it's fucking cut into Danny like meditating again, or it goes red.
Colour grading in this is as subtle as a sledgehammer. It is ridiculous. Like at the start, you're like, "Ha! I see what they're doing. It's red, so that means we're getting Matt. All right, cool." And then like 3 episodes later, they're still doing it, and I'm like, "This is giving me a migraine, man." And it's to the point where I think it's episode 5, maybe 6. No, it's 5. Take shelter. Jessica saves her mate at some event. They walk into a room that is lit up red, and I'm like, oh, so Daredevil's going to save him then. Who shows up 2 seconds later?
Nice ears.
They're horns.
It's annoying because you're like, this should be a great moment of someone from another show seeing a character from another show as team up event and stuff. It should always be. But I described it to Eammon as power strangers. Like, it's just like everyone's got to wear the right clothes because if they don't, no one's going to know what the fuck going on. I'll stop you now. We absolutely do. You know why? Because we followed every single character in every other show of their own, so it doesn't matter. Again, it goes back to though that I can see what the intent is. Just the execution is dire. One instance where I was like, "That's nice," which is when Matt goes to church to confess, and it's a shot. It's like an overhead shot of him stepping into the confessions box, and it's a little bit red, but not like Daredevil. But like, we don't need to know that because there's a fucking cross in the scene. Do you know what I mean? But it's how it's shot, and that's one thing. In fact, I think, and I don't know, you might disagree, but like, I feel like camera works. There are some interesting and like different camera, like a bit different cinematography than Daredevil has been. So like, there's a conversation when Karen and Matt are having a meeting in the diner. I was like, this doesn't feel like Daredevil, and I'm not mad at it. How it's shot looks like he's basically off kilter with there's like a lamp. It's all about, you know, all the blocking is he's off one shot, off kilter a bit, she's off kilter a bit, and I'm just like, this doesn't feel how Daredevil was previously shot, and I'm okay with it. But it's not. To go into the next point, those are rare occasions because fuck me, are some of these fight scenes shot absolutely terribly. Like, personally, I'm just like, what is happening? Like, I can't see anything. I don't know what's going on. The final fight with Luke, Jessica, and Matt with Madame Gao, your man from Iron Fist, and then the random dude that doesn't like Elektra. I can't remember the names. It's so poorly put together because obviously, how the hell are they going to put a fucking 80-year-old woman in a fight scene? Oh, but she can move things. She's got telekinesis, so she can just move stuff. She can just push stuff, and like Luke's getting thrown around, and you can't really see what's going on. And also, it's in the bottom of a fucking hole, so you can't see shit at all. And it's like, you've been colour coding this whole show all the way through, and no one can find a fucking extra light switch for this. This is doing my tits in. But yeah, just some bad fight scenes, man. And it doesn't help, obviously, like, you know, there was one fight scene where I was like, right, okay, I can see the struggle, but you're doing okay, which was the fight between Danny and Matt, when they're like, Danny, you've got to stay here because we've got to go sort it out. And he's like, no, I want to be in. And then Matt's, you know, and it goes back to me talking about Matt being a bit more chilled about stuff, where like Danny pushes him and he's like, oh, you fucker. Like, if you want to go, man, I'll fucking go. I don't give a shit. And it looks okay from Charlie Cox's angle. Mm-hmm. Charlie Cox looks better in this fight scene than Finn Jones does. And I'm just saying it how it is. I'm not shitting on him. I'm just like, these are the facts of the case, Your Honour. And then my biggest fucking gripe with this show, mate, is Sigourney fucking Weaver.
Yeah. So let's just quickly, because we've not mentioned her yet, so I feel like we just need to intro her ever so slightly. She is playing Alexandra, who is the leader of the Hand, and she is the one that is determined to get to the bottom of this hole, because she is essentially dying, and she's scared of dying, and that is her entire motivation for the whole series, and it's really painful, and she just speaks like this in every scene.
Yeah. Oh, interesting choice of weapon. You don't realise how powerful you are, do you? And I'm like, are you Sigourney, love? Are you trying today? Like, there's nothing to her. There's just nothing. Like, they, you know, in the first couple of episodes, they allude to her being an immortal and stuff. Like, she's in a restaurant and she's like, this is the best whatever meal I've had since I was last in Constantinople. And the waiter's like, don't you mean
Istanbul? They've
not called it Constantinople for years. And I'm like, right, cool. Now, mate, I've watched my fair share of films and shows with immortals in. You can do a fucking good job. I refer to legendary film Highlander, which, whilst there is a Frenchman playing a Scotsman and a Scotsman playing an Italian half Egyptian, that film still fucking rocks because the whole idea of immortality is handled so well. With this, it's just like we've all been kicking about for years. I feel like we're all struggling a bit. We're running out of the substance.
Oh, take a drink every time they say substance. Jesus Christ! Where's Demi Moore when you need her?
Mate, fucking yes, man. And then what pissed me off even more is to keep sticking with her. And like when she, you know, when Elektra wakes up and she goes at Sigourney Weaver and Sigourney Weaver grabs her and then flips her over, and I'm just like, this is dire.
It looks like the training footage from like the gym that they've all been working out at, when she just like flips her over with her arm, and it's like, okay, so she's literally just jumped around you. That's what's happened. You haven't done anything.
There's nothing going on there. Just these weak efforts to show how powerful she is, or whatever the fuck, and then they kill her in the third to last episode.
I think it's 7, yeah.
And in my head, I was just like, why the fuck? For one, kill two. No disrespect, kill two old birds with one stone, right? Characters, not the cast. I'm not ageist, but I pitched to you, Eammon. I've got 2 pictures, which I've already sent you in a text message, but we'll talk about that in a bit. My first one, why not completely scrap Sigourney Weaver for one, right? Get her out. There's nothing there at all, right? You have Madame Gao be, because she is a character we have followed since Daredevil. She's appeared in other shit. We know who she is. We know her intentions. We know her motivation, everything. You have her be, we need the substance. Fuck me, lads, we need the substance. I'm getting dead old. Look at me, I'm really old. I need the substance. We'll bring Elektra back, right? And then Elektra you know, becomes, obviously as the show progresses anyway, she becomes more self-aware and like she's like, no, I'm not down for this. Why didn't she just be like, you know what, fuck you guys, why have you got to be immortal and me and the hand boys, we're just dead. So what we're going to do is we're going to pinch the substance, we're going to kill all of you, and then I'm going to run the joint from now on. You do that in the second episode, because the Sigourney Weaver's death isn't a twist, it's not enjoyable, it's not a shock, it's not interesting, and it's just like, this could have all been done so much sooner. And it, because
as much as I love Sigourney Weaver, I would have jettisoned her character from the script in draft 1, quite frankly. If you'd have kept it Gao and still kept the whole, you know, resurrecting Elektra storyline, it would have worked a lot better. Like you say, we've, you know, audiences recognise Gao. It makes more sense. She's pre-established, fine. Elektra being resurrected, you still have the same conflict in the story. You still have the same, like, her realising who she really is, rah, rah, rah. What you don't have is million scenes of Sigourney Weaver alluding to being immortal or going to the doctors and being like, hey, you're dying, just to reiterate, you're dying.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm scared of death. And he's like, yeah, because you're dying. And it's like, I think that's my issue. It's just the subtlety in all the other shows, Iron Fist aside, is not here at all. And I just find it painful.
And I think also it's my issue with it is, like, if you compare it, the closest obviously in comparison we can give it to is Avengers, right? At least in the Avengers, Thanos, I'm not saying, you know, they're totally different leagues, obviously, but like every so often Thanos was alluded to. Sigourney Weaver's character is never.
This is literally the first time she's brought up.
Yeah, and I'm just like, we're supposed to be buzzed because you've got fucking Sigourney fucking Weaver in this show, and it's like, the more you're in it, the more I'm just like, oh, just fucking let me get through this.
It would have been
please.
more interesting if Gao had suddenly gone, hey, actually, we've recruited Kingpin into the Hand. You'd have been like, oh shit, okay, cool, great. That would have been more interesting than Alexandra, who, by the way, is an original creation for this series, the same as the Black Sky. Of just like, one of the writers was like, I've got an idea, and it's like, come on, really? I get the fact that, you know, Defenders in the comic is not originally like this lineup. It's Doctor Strange, it's Hulk, it's, you know, it's vastly different.
Characters they couldn't get, basically.
yeah, basically. So I understand that they've got a little bit of poetic license and stuff, but it's just a bizarre introduction. It's like they've gone, how could we sell this? We've got Ripley in it. She's here. Come watch it. And it's, I don't know. It's just disappointing.
It's like they're not acknowledging the good they've already done.
Yeah.
They've gone, fucking hell, lads, we're struggling here. And it's like, no, you're not. You've done, so far, you've stuck the fucking landing. Iron Fist, stay out the shot. But, like, you're doing really well. You don't need any dressing at all. There's nothing because it's like, you know, it was similar. It's this, and it's one thing where I was like, oh, God, this looks ropey, is when she is with Stick, and like he breaks free and a fight kicks off, and I'm like, neither of you two are fighting. Like we all know, no disrespect to you, but Scott, mate, you look winded. Just take a seat, pal. Like it's just bad. And then to top it all, the biggest fucking issue with this show, it really is Iron Fist. There's no question. Like there's just, it's bonkers that like I don't personally think Finn Jones is that bad in it. I think he's just alright, but alright's not good enough when you've got three other cast members who are just dominating.
Yeah.
And even fucking, you know, Colleen Wing, just give her a show. Give her a show, right?
Yep.
When Born Again kicks off again, if she turns up with a glowing fist, I'll be like, sound, I'm on board. Sorry, Finn, mate, you fucked it. But like, that's just, it's just, I think what frustrates me even more is because it's not the fact that he's not that great a character in this. It's that they elevate him to the level that they do for this as a plot device. Yeah. It's like they push him so far to the front. And you're like, could you just move out of the way because I can't see what Daredevil's doing. I can't see what Jessica's doing. I can't see what Luke's going. Like, and again, every fucking fight scene he's in, I'm like, why don't you power your fist up every time? It's always near the end of a fight. It's like Power Strangers. Like, oh, this guy's too tough for me. I'll call the Megazord. With Finn Jones, it's like, ooh, I'm angry, but I'm not quite angry enough to channel my chi into my right hand. Like, ooh. And I'm just like, because to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure in the comics, like, he can switch that shit on and off.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So why is he not doing it here? What's happening?
Because I think they excuse it every so often by having him say lines like, oh, it takes a lot of energy to summon my chi, and he sounds like every boy in Clapham. Fuck off, mate. Honestly, like, I'm aware I've not done my heaven section yet, but like, my biggest issue of of the whole show is Danny Rand. He's I think the issue is with Finn Jones, he's been given a bad hand in terms of writing. I actually think that's partly the problem, because there are moments when he handles it quite well. Like, I actually quite like his scenes in the Chinese restaurant. You know, when he's like, "Oh, is that pork? Can we have that?" That's just a nice little moment. But what, you know, when they sort of tell him off and like, "Oh no, you're staying here. We're going to tie you up." He becomes like a petulant child.
Stop telling me to calm down, Luke.
Really? That's the level of writing that we're paying for? Bearing in mind, this was on Netflix. We're paying that subscription fee, and that's what we're getting. And I kind of understand the point of, like, you know, when he, in his origin story, when he crashed in the mountains and all that, he was a child, and I get that there's some sort of like frozen trauma that's kind of, you know, he's still in that
stunted his maturity sort of thing.
Definitely, and I understand that, but neither does that excuse the writing to make it painful to watch. It actively makes him unlikable, which, you know, considering he's A, the hero of his own show, B, a main cast member here, what are you doing? Like, it doesn't make it enjoyable to watch. You know, if that was Daredevil, personally, hey, maybe there's some bias. If somebody went, they want you, because of your powers, something bad will happen, he'll go, shit, okay, maybe I should rethink this. Danny Rand's fucking first reaction is to start throwing punches. I'm like, mate, just fuck off. And I wrote that in my notes. I put, just fuck off. I just don't enjoy any of his scenes at all. And again, I think it's largely down to the writing rather than Finn Jones's performance. Granted, that doesn't help either, but I won't criticise him too much for that, because we could be here all day.
We've smashed through my heaven and hell section, so what's on yours?
Okay, so my heaven section. So something I really liked at the start with Daredevil specifically is it kind of treats him like an addict.
Yes.
In the sense of, like, you know, he's recovering from his vigilantism. You know, he's trying to make amends with his friends. And even though again, like later down the line, it kind of slowly bogged those episodes down, the conversations that he has, it's like he's clearly trying to, like, look, I'm sorry, hold my hands up, I fucked you over, just bear with me. And then as soon as the earthquake happens and his first reaction is, right, shit, I need to go outside and, like, help where I can and beat some people up in the street, because why not? And when Foggy confronts him about that, he instantly gets defensive and he's like, right, I'm leaving then.
Yeah.
Even though Foggy is not necessarily, like, attacking him for doing what he does, his reaction is one of, like, well, you can't criticise me. I'm, you know, just doing I can't help it, I've got to. You know, and he leaves the bar and I'm like, come on, mate. Your friend's trying to help. But I think it's interesting that they've tried to work that in of, like, he is addicted to being Daredevil. You know, it's a calling. And I really liked seeing that. So I think that is probably top of my heaven list. Second, is the fight in Midland Circle where they all meet up at once.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like, finally seeing them all, like, their storylines, like, cross over is fun.
Yeah.
Seeing Matt walk around with a scarf on his head is fun.
So that's one to ask you, right? So I don't know if I missed bits or whatever, but I'm like, why are you wearing a scarf, man? Like, Jessica already knows what you look like. Like, the cat's out the bag already a little bit, so why? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. That was one thing where I was like, I get it. I understand Matt's motivations for that and the reason for it, but I'm just still like, I don't know. I don't know if it was just like, let's just do this because it's a funny little bit. That was my only. I don't know.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, I guess there's like, for all Matt knows, he's just trying to confront like the board members or whatever.
Yeah,
not necessarily the Hand themselves.
Yeah.
So I guess there's an element of like, oh, I'll just wrap up just in case.
Yeah. No, fair.
But I like the song that kicks in 'cause it's Run the Jewels.
Yeah.
It's just, it adds a little bit of flair to it. It's sort of dynamic enough that you're like, oh, it's not quite Daredevil level of brutal, and like it's not like a one take, but it's still got enough of like, oh, this is cool, this is fun.
Yeah.
And then obviously Elektra rocks up, and her suit in this one I actually think is great because it's like the perfect mix of a season 2 costume and like the comic accurate like stringy ninja suit. So it was just, I just like that whole sequence. And then finally, you weren't a fan, funnily enough. It's the whole dinner episode in the Chinese restaurant. I really enjoyed that.
No, sorry. I am a fan of it. It's just it just felt like a long one. It was like they're all together, and then Stick turns up, and then Alexandra turns up, and then it was just like, I don't know. I just wanted a bit more pace to it. Their encounters are brilliant, and like we say, as much as we've shat on Iron Fist, like I loved. You're talking about him going, oh, is this pork? I loved it. It was like, I've paid their the next 2 months rent for him. Like, they're fine. They're sorted.
Yeah.
Very, very much like a Tony Stark, Bruce Wayne moment of, like, I bought the bank. Like, it was just, that was a great little thing. And yeah, I just think it was a bit too long. That was my only issue. But yeah, I get you.
That's fair. I think where this show succeeds best is almost in the quieter moments where the characters actually get to like breathe a little bit, and sort of process what they've just been through by like bantering and like bouncing off one another. And I feel like this episode it does that best, whilst also driving it forward with like the attack from the Hand and Alexandra just rocking up. Granted, she's boring, but still. I think it just kind of. I think it got all the core elements of the season into one episode quite well, I feel. Again, it does also hit you over the head with all the colours every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Even to the point where like the neon sign outside is literally all of them put together. And I was just like, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are my 3 in my heaven section.
Fair. And now we go to hell.
It's Iron Fist, mate. I fucking hate him.
Oh, poor lad.
Oh God, which is a shame because I do actually quite like Iron Fist season 2. Thought it was better than it should have been. But he's childish.
He's bratty.
To an unlikable. Yeah, he's bratty. That is exactly perfect. I don't enjoy any of his scenes at all. Like, I keep coming back to like, how the fuck does Colleen put up with him?
Yeah,
because she's really got her shit together, and especially
so good, man. So
good.
And
especially considering like her backstory and like being raised by the Hand and stuff, you'd think that would make her quite a chaotic individual, and she's not. You have your finger raised, please.
I do. I'd like to
bench.
add, in regards to her character, I love when Luke and Danny like meet up again after he's jabbed him one. Claire, because as soon as she goes, oh, the guy punched me, he's got a glowing fist in it. She's like, right, give me a minute. And I love, like, again, I love Claire so much. Just as soon as she hears what's happened, she's like, give me the phone. Like, just so well done. But then what I love is her moments with Colleen. So while Luke and Danny are having their little bickering match, they just sat there like, it's fucking mad, isn't it? In our world, in our life, just mental.
It's going better than I thought it would.
You gotta admit that dragon shit from the outside does sound pretty crazy.
I do like their little moments together, and I almost feel a bit annoyed that like the likes of Karen and Foggy, they don't have those moments enough. Like the civilians, you know, they're all sat in a room at one point. They're like, oh, she's from such and such, and it's like they're all sat in the furthest corners of the room from each other. It's like they've all gone to detention, and they're just like, oh god, fucking hell. And like even near the end, it is the Breakfast Club. Even when Foggy goes to see Luke, and he's like, you know, you're sorted, you're not going back to prison, and Luke's like, I'm sorry for your loss. And it's like, I just wish we'd have had more of those characters interacting as much as we did the defenders themselves. But sorry, carry on.
The whole plot of the season, the Hand are looking for is a set of dragon bones under New York that if they mine them, New York will collapse. And I'm just like, the fuck?
What do you mean though?
Because all right. I don't know if this is going to make sense.
Hear me out.
Hear me out. We obviously get a reference to a dragon in Iron Fist, because that is where he gets his powers from. If you haven't watched Iron Fist, he has to fight a dragon and then he absorbs its heart. That's what the Iron Fist is.
Which you don't see, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. You don't see that. They just sort of... You see him like lying down in a lake with a dragon tattoo that burns into his skin. It's like, all right, cool. What's happened? That is the only time that we actually see / are aware of a dragon.
It's like when Peter and Sila fought in Heroes. You never saw it happen. It was always like off shot. They always went in a room and just lights came on. You're like, oh, sound okay. The coolest thing we're waiting for. We're not going to see, but thanks.
Exactly. And I think that's my issue. Is like they're sort of talking about the substance, and they're talking about like, you know, the powers that be and all this mystical shit, but we never see any of that.
Yeah.
Like, the Hand being this, you know, all-powerful organisation was, like, scary and sort of intimidating in Daredevil, you know, even in Iron Fist in places. But the mystical side of things, aside from... You just don't really see that properly.
Because budget.
Because budget, because this is TV, and I understand that, but like the whole dragon thing just pissed me off. I was like, because it's introduced so late in the game.
Yeah.
And again,
it's a big thing. It's like physically
it's a huge point.
Like when he wakes up, because he falls down, doesn't he?
The fist is the thing that opens a door that is at the bottom of the hole.
Yeah.
And basically, Elektra tricks him into punching the wall, which obviously opens the door, and then he wakes up.
He wakes up with his shirt open, with the dragon tattoo on it, and then as it zooms out, I'm like, oh, it's the same thing underneath chest. But I was getting very big Alien vibes, space jockey ship, all the tunnels and stuff. I was like, this is just fucking Alien. I'm like, of course they've asked fucking Alan Ripley to turn up in this.
Yeah, and it's like we've never... Like, the dragon thing was only mentioned in Iron Fist. It's never mentioned in Daredevil. It's never mentioned in Jessica Jones or Luke Cage or even this up until, like, what, the 6th episode? They start referencing, like, bones and mining and stuff. And I just think there's, like, a level of believability that just... This pushes too far into...
Really?
Bear in mind, if you said in Daredevil Season 1, all right, there's a massive dragon skeleton underneath New York right now, you'd be like... What?
Yeah.
It doesn't fit.
But then also it's like, it's even the bigger issue of some people might not have watched Iron Fist.
Exactly.
So you're just like, what? Like, I get you. I do get you. I don't know.
I just find it irritating.
But then what would you think? What would you say is the alternative route then to take?
Well, I'm not a TV writer, so fuck knows.
True. I just sit and rip the piss out of shit. I pitched an idea to Eammon within like 3 episodes, and I was like, fuck me, I'd watch the shit out of this. Which is, I would have preferred to have seen strip it back, narrow it down as much as possible, and give me the defenders doing like assault on Precinct 13. Jessica goes to jail. Like Matt turns up to cover her, just as like she does in the show. Luke is maybe being transported, and he's just about to get out of prison because from where he's been, it starts off with him in prison. Danny is just, for reasons, following like something to get to the police station or a prison of some sort, and they all hold up, and it's like, we can't let any of these guys out. Why? Because they're all the Hand. What if the whole prison is the Hand? Like, but it's just, you're right. It's just like, we've not mentioned dragons. We've only mentioned immortals because fucking Sigourney Weaver's immortal. But then also, here's another one. Young Eammon, right? If I'm not mistaken, hold on, let me get this right. Does Sigourney Weaver get beheaded? She only gets stabbed in the chest, doesn't she?
I thought she got stabbed.
Right. So why is it with every other immortal that dies, your man from Ungently Warfare and Dune gets his head chopped off? They make a very conscious shot, which is, and admittedly, I was like, wow, Scott Glenn stood there for a reason, and the body, he falls over, and as he falls, his head is stood in the way, and it just rolls. And I was like, fine. Yeah. And then obviously, Colleen kills your man from Iron Fist and beheads him fully, like his head is gone. I was like, Sigourney Weaver's only been stabbed in the chest. Why? Because if they're immortal, surely she'll just be like, that was a bit rude. Like, what have you done that for? Like, I brought you back to life, you arsehole. But yeah, I just thought it was quite interesting. Maybe she'll be back, mate, in Born Again. Oh my God. Is that all your hell section done?
Yeah, it is. I have to say, there was one moment with Alexandra that I thought was really done well in terms of the immortal, like, kind of her dying subplot thing.
Yeah.
In episode 6, Ashes to Ashes, no, just Ashes, she's listening to some music, and it's like, it's a really old vinyl, and it's made clear that it's a very old vinyl because it's a massive fuck off gramophone that she's listening to it on.
Yes.
And it's like really old classical music, and again, we know that she likes classical music, and it's sort of, she's listening to it, she's like chilling out, and then it starts skipping, and it's clearly just like finally giving way, and it's breaking, and she looks like quite upset, and she sort of like picks it up, and I was like, oh, because she's the vinyl, like she's also getting old. She's also starting to break because we know she's dying. Like, this is her, like, facing her reality of, like, well, this is irrelevant now. And it's that whole, her coming to terms with, oh, shit, I'm also going to be irrelevant because I'm going to die. And I thought that was
not a fan of that.
I'm scared of death. And I just thought that was a much better way of explaining her character motivation and her fears than her trotting off to the doctors every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I was just like, it's a much more subtle way. Again, when this show allows its characters to breathe, it's so much more interesting. Like, that moment, I was like, oh, I actually can, resonate with this character for once.
Yeah.
Rather than her just being like, the substance.
Yeah, fucking substance. Yeah.
Honestly.
Defenders, I get it. Do you know what I mean? That's my reaction to, like, I get it, a fair play. Like, we were up to our elbows in MCU cinematic universes, and Netflix were like, we need to fucking churn this bad boy out as soon as possible. However, it's not as executed as brilliant as it could have been, because all the pieces are there. Like, there's no question. It's just the biggest blessing, and I mean it without being too harsh, the biggest blessing is that the majority of characters that you do like don't leave this, like, they leave intact. Everyone that you enjoyed, you go, right, I still can't wait to see more of you. The final shot of Matt being on the bed and stuff, I'm just like, oh fucking hell yeah, I can't wait for 3. Like, buzzing. Obviously, because I know what happens, but it's like, it's just good to be like, oh, this is great.
So obviously the series ends, with this huge fight underneath Midland Circle, and
that you can barely see.
He can barely see, and he decides to stay with a lecturer as like the whole like cavernous thing is sort of coming down, and that's it. And then everybody else is sort of led to believe that he died under Midland Circle.
I do love when they all come back to the police station and Karen and Foggy stood there, and I was like, oh, that does hurt.
Because everybody comes in and they see every person, they get their designated hero, and then those two are like, oh no. And then the realization hits, and it's like, oh, yeah. But obviously,
nice.
like you say, that last shot of Matt lying on a bed with a nun by his side, you're like,
Oh, shit!
give me that Catholic guilt, baby! Those words have never been said in that order, ever.
Got any final words to say on the Defenders, Mr. Eammon?
I want to like Iron Fist. Danny Rand in the comics is interesting. Danny Rand in the comics is a much more well-rounded individual. And there are moments in this that work. Like you say, the moment where he pays for their rent, it's a fun little thing of like, okay, yeah, because he's rich. And although I think it's stupid that Colleen puts up with his shit, their dynamic is at least sweet. I just wish I loved it a bit more. My only other thought is that Daredevil's suit looks really fucking cool the entire season.
And even the fact when he like gets it whipped round your man when they're interrogating him, and Luke's like, you got to admit that's pretty cool. And I was like, Luke Cage, think this is cool? This is brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, because it's when he's got him round the neck, isn't it? And he's like winding it in. I was like, oh, that Billy Club, Jesus Christ. That was fucking awesome. It's a bit of a Frankenstein of a show. And I wish they'd made the most of the potential that it had. But it's fine because Daredevil season 3 is on the way next, and I can't fucking wait.
But then, Eammon, I'd like to throw in a little surprise portion of the podcast that you didn't know was coming.
Oh God!
Called Defender Bender. Play the music.
Defender Bender.
This is Defender Bender, where we predict which Defender might be making an appearance in Daredevil Born Again. I'm going to go through the cast list of Defenders, Eammon. If you think they're going to turn up, you say Defender Bender. If they're not going to be in it, repeat Offender if you think they're going to turn up in it, right?
Okay,
so,
all right, okay.
Danny Rand.
Defender Bender.
Luke Cage.
I'm going to say repeat offender.
Nice, I like it. Jessica Jones.
Repeat offender. I really think that she's going to be in this.
Claire Temple.
Unfortunately, I think Defender Bender.
Colleen Wing.
Defender Bender.
Ooh. Elektra.
Defender Bender.
Misty Knight.
Defender Bender.
Right, okay.
I would love to see Misty Knight and Colleen Wing again. Give me more Daughters of the Dragon. That was sick.
And finally, he's kind of Daredevil-y, but we'll just let it go. Turk Barrett.
Repeat offender. Come on. You can't have a Daredevil show without Turk Barrett. Come on.
That'd be amazing.
I guarantee this baby will not jam. Or my name ain't Turk Barrett.
That is our round of Defender Bender. Play the outro music game.
Defender Bender.
I think we're going to leave it there because, I mean, you can't get any higher than that, really, can you?
That was great. I mean, that was pure audible genius, quite frankly.
Thanks, babe. Folks, once again, we thank you for listening. Thanks for sticking through this journey as we get ever so closely to being burst out of the world into Born Again. Watching a blind man beat people up because, God, it's so close, Eammon. And it's been confirmed today, as I'm right, that it's going to be a two episode premiere.
I believe so, yeah.
For when it's coming back. And they are now currently filming season 2 as well.
They are indeed.
Which is just
very
bonkers.
Exciting. Yeah.
So that must mean it's really good, Eammon. That must mean it's that good that like we're going to really enjoy the first season. There'll be nothing wrong with it, and there'll be no problems, and we'll really like it. And Danny Rand won't turn up, and it'll be really good.
I really, really fucking hope so on all counts. I have been Eammon Jacobs. You can follow me at Eammon Jacobs. You have been...
I've been Nick Stanyforth, and you can find me at Nick Stanyforth.
You can follow the Daredevilcast at Daredevilcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Threads. You can find us on podcast providers like Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, iHeartRadio. Find a podcast provider and we're on it.
I mean, hopefully, if you're listening to us by now, you've probably fucking found one. You'd hope.
I
But,
would
yeah.
think so. Otherwise,
Unless this is just weird. How have you done this? Like, how have you legitimately found us if you can't even find us any other way? That's really weird.
Have you just got supersonic hearing like Matt Murdock? If so, get in touch.
Yeah,
Tell
come
us
on the
what it's
podcast.
like.
We'd love to speak to you.
Can you tell that this episode has made us delirious?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We love you all. I love you, Eammon. Oh, that was a long
Bye.
silence. Bye, everyone.
I'm Daredevil. Not even God can stop that now.